Welcome to the Wooper Club League Season 13, Week 7 Power Rankings. 7 out of 8 weeks, down one more in the books. Is there any drama left at all, though? My name is IllLogic. I am the coach of the Buffalo Bouffalant, and as always, I'm joined by SteveChuck, coach of the Waterdeep Wobbuffets.
Hey, everybody.
Wrapping up the auctions, no more trades left, so let's see what happened this week in the auctions. That is a Screamtail for 20. I believe that is all of the Route 1 Burbs money that they spent on that. Not much more time left anyway, so why not? Skipping over the Mudkips who got nothing. The Wooper Troopers picking up Lucario for 11, dropping off that Uxie. Not a bad pickup there. Lucario, nice Tier 3 abuser of Terra. Steamroller's getting a little bit of an overhaul here. Goldango, the Tier 1, dropping the Eversacked Enamorous only for 1 Woopa. And then Mousehold for 18. That was a fun little battle there. Dropping the Gallade. Boulder is picking up the Sneasler, swapping out their Tier 1s as well. Dropping the King Gambit, which just could not find a place without Terra. Corviknight Clobber's picking up Jolteon for Electros. 1 Electric for another, dropping the Tier 3 for the Tier 4. But is Terra Ice Jolteon that much better? Maybe we'll see. Electabuzz, Kinglers, and Incineroar all opting not to pick anything up. Noctowl's getting that Drifblim for 1, swapping out Defogger there pretty much. Laurentia's out Drifblim and still have the ground resist now and immunity. Aggron's picking up Cloyster for the Sui and Decidueye that just did not pan out after the Week 1 trade. Unfortunate for them, but Cloyster, nice pickup. Corviknight's swapping out poison types from Tier 4. Skuntank in, Rillaboom out. Bouffalant, it's so sad to see the crab go, but it was his time. Tauros getting a little bit of speed there for the Bouffalants. They wrap up their Tier 4s. And the Wobbuffets grabbing Goodra, nice little resistance part of their defensive core, and dropping these O'Rourke. Steve, this was an even shorter list than last time. I'm pretty sure people just not spending money anymore. What's happening?
That seems to be the case. The teams are at the point where everyone knows what else they want, and they're really only bidding on things they care for. As you can see, most of the auctions here going for 1 with a few exceptions. And with that being the case, just a couple instances of bidding. And even then, some of them that had more cost, like the Screamtail. 20 was the initial bid because the Burbs wanted it that much. They just put everything on the line right away. The Lucario had a little bit of bidding to get there. The Mousehold was bid high originally by the Incineroar as they really wanted it, and the Steamrollers just outbid them. But that's it. That's really it. Of course, lots of mons that were not picked up. At Tier 1, we have Azumarill, and Tier 2, the Garganacci, Sarilege, and Crocodile. In Tier 3, just the Blissey going unpicked up. Tier 4, Sableye, Medicham, Espeon. And in Tier 5, as always, most of them, Clawser, Jumpluff, Crocalor, Swalot, Vivillon, and Glimmet. In terms of averages, they're down, especially after the heavy spending of Week 6. Down to an average of 5 overall, with, again, most things going for 1. So it seems like the auction's over. We'll see. We got one more week of auction. Maybe the coaches will bring out some big spending to end the season, get some last key pieces, or maybe it'll be similar to this, where everything's going for 1.
And Azumarill not getting picked up, trying to get its league-leading 4th championship, just not able to find a roster. That's a little bit crazy. Yeah, with only 1 week left, it looks like people have already finalized their rosters. Can't imagine too much crazy stuff happening on the final week, but wouldn't be surprised if something comes up to surprise us. Wonder what that will be, though, if anything. Shame that it's winding down, but the auction has been a blast, and I'm sure we'll be able to have some nice retrospective here once we are finished up with the next week, which is going to be the last one. I guess speaking of that, we really should just get into the games ahead here, right? Let's talk about it. They got it out of the way early. First match of the week was the one we were all waiting for. Boulder's trying to claw their ways into the playoffs past any one of the top 8, but the Agrons punched 5 playoff tickets early. Solid 3-0 win. Turn 1 fake out, Poison Touch, Poisons, Meowscarada. That's absolutely classic. Terra, Grass, Tauros, Blaze. Tell me if you've seen that one before. About as frequently as seeing Great Tusk getting burned. It's a mid-off right now. Well, Azoth didn't lead, but here it is, and big surprise. Set Rocks, Go Boom, take out Tauros. This one is so good. It does this every time, so reliably, so well. Abomasnow gets his screens and then sets up Swords Dance and Terra Blast ground, takes down Pincurchin. Very nice, but the Tier 5 Basculin is here. Wave Crash will KO back. Cloyster in on Chestnut. Shell Smash up, but Giga Drain gone. No problem. Iron Moth gets the special attack raise on Fire Dance while KOing Chestnut. Then Sneasler gets some chip and U-turning out. Oh, agility on Iron Moth. Oh no, that's game. Kilowatt will no longer outspeed. So a couple more Fiery Dances and a Psychic will do it. The Iron Pizza sending the Agrons, Bouffalant, Wobbuffets, Incineroar, and Burbs all to the playoffs. With only Sasbo's Fate remaining. A win would have gotten him in, but the field is happy for this one. Next up, short match but good match. Top-seeded Corviknight against the hapless Troopers, but this was a great close match. 1-0 to the Corviknight to keep the record atop the rest of the pack, but it was a fun ride. 2 weeks in a row, Greg's Corviknight on the feature match. How did it get this close? Was it the lack of KO leader Reggie Drago? Maybe, but maybe the Troopers were that well prepared. Find out with Michael, the match of the week on this channel. Next match, set up for a clash of two very good teams, turned into a laugher quickly. Yeah, that's a Screamtail that never swapped out as the Burbs demolish the Clobberers 6-0. Klefki misses the T-Wave turn 1, and that's game. We've seen a lot of 90% misses on the last turn decide the game, but on the first, are you sure? Well, substitute, calm mind 6 times, and yes, Screamtail will in fact claim all 6 KOs in its debut. Screens don't matter if you can't break the sub, and even if you can, nothing does any damage. This mod is too good. Just another mod on the list of things Michael can do with the crazy Sun team he's assembled. 6-0. But what did we learn from it? Next match, you like 6-0s? We've got you covered. The Wobbuffets keeping up with the Burbs differential with a much less flashy, but maybe more technically impressive 6-0. This one going over the Kinglers. Early rocks up for the Wobbuffets, then Ditto in on Glowking, so the slower Chili reception gets a swap out last funny. Cresselia stays in on the Toxic, which will go a long way to bring that down, especially with Taunt Glowking. Dawnfan has a nice wall for Landorus and will trade Michael's rocks for Lando's life. Ditto into spin. Oh, wait, no, rapid spin, not giving his opponent a chance to remove hazards. I like that, Steve, and that'll force it out, meaning Dawnfan can take care of Cresselia. Zapdos in. Bramblegast is the check. Immune to Hurricane, easy, and there's the rapid spin, even if it gets toxic by Toxapex. More hazard, spikes up, and more immunities to Icy Wind this time. Sheesh. Ditto down to hazard, it's getting out of hand, especially when Zapdos Volt switches into Salazzle on the most free Psychic of Steve's life. In fact, why not just go into Armorish, who can get another KO with Psychic, and then finish Zapdos off with Armor Cannon. Super clean game from Steve. Speaking of, how about the Incineroar fresh off of a win over the Noctowls? But the Bouffalant still have their number. Another clean 4-0 win for the trending Bouffalant. Turn 1, Terra Poison Wochen. Did the Bouffalant learn nothing from the Turn 1 Terra of Wochen? The Incineroar learned by swapping out Quagsire, but Moltres just trades chip with Wochen, including losing those boots. Hippo in on Iron Tread switch. Helmet is strong and rocks go up. Fortress is the wall to Rillaboom. Same mod twice, basically. Treads can spin on Fortress, but Body Press does half back. And Lefties and Grassy Terrain is getting Iron Treads healthy again. Rocks up again against Moltres roosting up, which gets the burn on Hippo. Hippo stays in on Rillaboom's knockoff, forcing some more switches, getting some chip. Gardevoir finally in on Quagsire's EQ. Moonblast brings Iron Treads very low, but it's still hanging on by a nose. It'll spin away rocks, but Fortress gets the Volt Switch on Moltres, swapping Indigo back to Gardevoir. Moltres can't avoid the 2-hit KO from resisted Moonblast. Sheesh, it'll bring guard low, but finally goes down for the first KO. Hippo gets rocks up yet again, then Quagsire gets up T-Spikes. Cute, but Fortress spins those away. Stop that. And Fortress gets its own T-Spikes up. Wochen in on a losing battle for Fortress, baiting in Quillfish to take more chip from rocks and losing the Eviolite at least. Sandy Shock's in on a Quagsire on a double, out-trading thanks to speed in the Shuckleberry, even Rillaboom taking about a third from Earth Power. Wochen sacked a U-turn into Iron Treads, and the Grassy Terrain will be Matt's undoing, allowing Sandy Shocks to survive the EQ and finally KO that Treads. Fortress in on Rillaboom, who removes those lefties finally. Fortress finally stays in on Rillaboom and KOs with, well, Body Press. Mimikyu's in, now or never, Swords Dance, but Volt Switch removes the disguise. Hippo can tank easy, unless it's Terra Blast Water. Fortress does tank that hit and KOs with Body Press. Threat is down. Excalibur finally in again. Banded Glaive Rush does 75% to Quagsire, so we'll click that about 2 more times. Finish off the Quillfish and then the Quagsire, and that's game. Fun back and forth with the Bouffalant, staying with the pack. Finally, the game we were all paying close attention to. The Mudkips grab their first W and match the Steamroar's record with the 3-0 win. Dragouch gets down T-Spikes, but Volcanion looks like it's about to run through the Mudkips. Raichu survives an Earth Power on 4 and KOs back. Tinglu in to set up Spikes, even gets Toxic, and it'll also get a strong Earthquake on Clodsire in exchange for rocks. 3 layers go up before it goes down. Then Decidueye is in on Goldango. Is that the answer? Terra Dark. Resist Shadow Ball and KO the Golden Guy. Easy. Hazard's gone, but Chad's falling behind by taking chip. Rotom chipped, Cyclozar chipped, then finished off by Sucker Punch. Mousehold is in, Encore's Decidueye, and that's 2 Tidy Ups in, as Heatran is in too. It hits once, twice, 10 times, but Heatran lives the +2 Population Bomb at 9, KOing back because it is Hitran. Volt Switch KOs that, but it's only a matter of time now. The Speedy Raichu grabs the last 2 KOs with Psyshock. Congrats on the Mudkips on avoiding the imperfect season. With the Noctowls grabbing the forfeit win over the Electabuzz, that's what happened in Week 7. Quick run through, but a lot of I don't want to say bad games. It's just a lot of big wins from the teams that are already up there. That'll mean a little bit of a change here in the power rankings, at least with one of those big matches there. The Corviknight sit atop the power rankings right now, alone at 6-1. Next up, we got the Bouffalant. Corviknight Clobber is sliding down a little bit below the Bouffalant. Wobbuffet staying at 4. Newport Noctowls at 5. Aggron's moving a little bit up to 6. Route 1 Burbs at 7. It's because the Cincinnati Incineroar slide down to 8 at 4 and 3. Well, Steve, we didn't really go over the feature match, but Corviknight, they just keep winning, and even if it hasn't been all that clean against two middling teams the last couple weeks, not enough reason to move them down, I think.
Yeah, they're certainly winning, and their schedule, we talked about it earlier. They had a difficult schedule early on playing a lot of the top teams. They got their matches in there, and as long as they keep taking care of business and maintain a game ahead of everyone else, it's going to be hard to move them down. We can certainly fault them for some plays at times, but the end result is they still have the best record. They will likely finish the 1 seed overall, and we'll have to wait till the playoffs to see what their rematches with some of these top teams are going to look like.
Yeah, big shout out to the Corviknight for getting those big W's. Really wonder what the adjustments will be from both sides if they end up rematching some of these teams. Speaking of, Bouffalant do move up to number 2 because the Clobberers did get clobbered. That's kind of crazy that it was just a 6-0 from the get-go. Boy, sometimes you miss the T-wave and it's done, huh, Steve? But only down one spot for the Clobberers. Still keeping them up pretty high. Is that because we really didn't see much from the 6-0 to move them down too much further?
That is exactly it. A 6-0 like that is really difficult to rank. They missed the Thunder Wave, which is, happens 10% of the time, and because of that, they lost. We didn't really get to see. It was just a set they weren't prepared for. Similar thing happened with the Noctowls earlier against myself and the Wobbuffets, where eventually they just didn't have an answer for Armor Rouge and just weren't ready for that set. Same thing here. Clobbers just were not ready for the Calm Mind substitute Screamtail, and as a result, they lost. It's hard to take anything from it. Something both teams can certainly look at moving forward. As a note, also, by the time they played this match, both teams were locked for the playoffs, so it's also not 100% clear how serious each team was taking it, whether or not they were keeping their more consistent strategies in the back. It's also possible that offensive-leaning Screamtail was one of those kind of more memey or, not super serious strategies that ended up working really well. So it's really hard to say and take much of anything from it. We'll move the Clobberers down as the Bouffalant kind of with their historical power and, keep on winning, definitely moving up to 2. But, yeah, after that, it's a big question mark with a lot of these teams of where are they actually going to fall out. And at this point, it could be roughly even all around the board.
Yeah, to be clear, the Thunderwave missed. We don't know for sure if the Clobbers would have won if they had hit the T-Wave. Would have helped a lot. It sure feels like the Screamtail set was poised to get at least a couple kills, though, and really put the Burbs ahead. So we really can't say for sure how it would have gone. I have confidence that the Burbs probably would have taken that anyways, but like I said, it's an unconventional set potentially. Wonder what that would have done there. Bouffalant staying at 2, Wobbuffets, Noctowls, Ekrons all taking care of business. Not too much to say there, but interestingly, Incineroar had to play the Bouffalant. One of these two teams had to go down, and because of that, one of these teams, and only one of them, is at 4 and 3, and that's going to open up the door whenever we start talking about the playoffs here. Anything else you want to talk about the power rankings here before we go into some more substantial playoff talk, Steve?
Yeah, I'll just mention, I'll reiterate the point that the 2 through 7 in general are all very close. We kind of had to force an order of them, and at least in my mind, I especially look at their matchups against other teams within the rankings. So the Bouffalant, have played lots of these teams here, going 3 and 2 against them. And some of the teams at the lower end, like the Burbs and the Incineroar, have gone 1 and 2 and 1 and 3 against these teams. But also that really doesn't account for the growth in some of the teams, like the Burbs especially. Their team's gotten so much better with these additional Sun pieces, which might be a reason to push them up further. But it is really just a big mess in the middle here, and we'll see what it all comes down to in the postseason.
Speaking of all of that, you may notice there are stars next to all these teams, because as you mentioned, the Agrons beating the Boldors, all 8 of these teams are clinched for playoffs. However, the way that our playoff system works, if anyone is tied with that 8 seed in terms of record, they will also make it in. So there's no set record you need, no set number that are in. And with that, get to look at the standings here real quick. Number 1 seed, it's the Calgary Corviknight. They're alone because they are 6 and 1 with a plus 18 differential. It's pretty simple. If they win, they keep the number 1 seed as they deserve. And as we see here, 2 through 7, all with the same 5 and 2 record with varying differentials from 16 to 5. But maybe the most interesting ones at the bottom, it's the Incineroar at 4 and 3 at -1, and just outside the last team that could potentially make it. The Boulder Boulders are 4-4 plus 2. So this is pretty simple here, Steve. The playoffs are about locked up for who is in and who is out. Give us the quick rundown.
Yeah, so it is simple. The Incineroar this week are playing the Kinglers. If the Incineroar lose, the 8th place team would actually be the Boulders based on differential, but they'd both be 4-4. They'd both make it, and they would play each other in the play-in round to the playoffs. If the Incineroar win this week, moving up to 5-3, there will be the 8th place team will have 5 wins, and the Boulders would therefore miss the playoffs. It's as simple as that. And the Incineroar, of course, are very motivated to win this match, as a win means they don't have to do a play-in game and risk missing that top 8 spot. So the Incineroar basically get 2 chances to win to get to a top 8. Meanwhile, the Boulders are hoping for the Incineroar to lose the first so that they then get a chance to play that play-in game.
They are 4-4 because the Week 8 match against the Electabuzz is a forfeit win for the Boulders. And kind of interesting, last season we had, of course, 2 different conferences. The conference that the Incineroar were in, they actually had a chance to do pretty much the same thing. It was a win and gatekeep 3 different teams out of the playoffs. And they actually ended up dropping that and letting in the floodgates, letting a bunch of teams in. Instead of 4, we had 7 teams in the playoffs. The Incineroar going to choke again and let the Boulders in as well, or are they finally going to clean things up a little bit? Steve, we also talked earlier about the standings and how much of a mess it is from 2 through 7, and really it's 1 through 8 or 9 is just a big old mess. We really can't say for sure who's playing who where, and there are a lot of complicated factors in this, right? Some teams playing each other a little bit here. The Corviknight lose, and maybe get a bunch of 6-2 teams. Some teams dropping to 5-3 and the Incineroar win, and they're all over the place. We really can't tell much of anything, can we?
Nope. I know for my own reasons, I've looked at this thinking about who I'm going to play, especially heading into the Week 8 auction, trying to figure out if I want something in particular. But there's no way to make sense of this. Just there's too many games. You can make a prediction for a game and try and plan that way, but even then it's going to come down to the differential in most cases. So it is all over the place. Got to be ready really to play any of these teams. It can really end up with whatever. The only match that would be definite is the Incineroar and Boulders in the play-in game if that's needed. Outside of that, everything's on the table.
Probably the greatest chaos would be the Incineroar lose, and probably the Corviknight losing as well, bring a bunch of these 5-2 teams the chance to go up to 6-2, especially for probably the Burbs, Wobbuffets, and maybe Bouffalant, depending on differential. Someone else could snag the 1, but really it's all up in the air. It's going to depend on those Week 8 matches, which of course we need to talk about. Really, though, the number one that we need to look at is the Incineroar and Kinglers. Pretty easy here, as was mentioned. Incineroar win, they gatekeep the Boulders out. The Incineroar lose, we get an extra match. We get a whole week for one match of the Incineroar and Boulders, which I think would be a lot of fun. Maybe the Incineroar don't want fun, though, and they just want to take care of business against the Kinglers. Understandable. Boy, the Kinglers have actually been playing pretty well recently. This last match aside against the Wobbuffets, they've been showing a lot of promise this season. This could be a blast. Steve, there are a couple of other interesting matches to shake things up in the middle, too, yeah?
Yeah, a couple of them that stand out are the Newport Noctowls versus the Route 1 Burbs, and the Akron Agrons versus the Corviknight Clobberers. These are both, all 4 of these teams are 5-2 teams. The Noctowls and Burbs kind of at the upper areas of differential, where the Agrons and Clobberers at the lower level. But between these matches, we're guaranteed to get 2 teams at 5-3 and 2 teams at 6-2. So it can really help kind of lay the foundations for the matchups for the following week. And honestly might end up in these exact matchups being played in the playoffs, depending on how everything falls out.
Rematches are super tough in Draft League, just knowing that there is a certain limitation to mods and such. Wonder how much spice we'll be getting in these first matchups against each other this time in Week 8. You're going to have to come back here to find out, because that's going to do it for us for the Power Rankings. We're going to see you back here for the final week of the regular season. Thank you to Steve for joining me. Thanks to all of you for watching as well. We'll see you then as we wrap up the Season 13 regular season for the Wooper Club League.